Hey, welcome back to Wicked Smart Golf, aka Wicked Smat. This is your host, Michael Leonard, and this podcast is committed to helping you play better golf without changing your swing. Today, I'm excited to bring on golf fitness professional Billy Troy. Thanks for being back on the podcast, man.
Michael, thanks so much. And sounds like you've done that a few times before, mate, with how smooth that was.
Just 508 times so far, so we're making pretty good progress. Your first one was episode 354. It's wild to think how much has changed in a year and a half since then.
Man, like we're talking about it just before, like I thought it was 2025 when we recorded and golf and tech's a fast moving space. So I really appreciate you having me on it, man. And the last podcast that we did, a lot of people have reached out afterwards asking me questions or clients have been reaching out. So it's been really appreciated. Thanks, man.
Awesome, man. Yeah, definitely. I enjoyed our talk. I had you featured in the Wicked Smart Golf Fitness Formula. You had all kinds of great knowledge, so I was excited to bring it back. And I think even just kind of starting from there, of like, what do you feel like has changed from a year and a half ago to today? I know we talked a little bit about AI. Like, I feel like that's such a big thing in golf. Do you use it to manage your swing, to evaluate your weight, your fitness? Like, can golfers use AI for fitness? What's your take?
Yeah, it's such a huge growing space, isn't it? With data centers popping up everywhere. And to answer your question briefly, I think it can be super powerful in the right hands with the right context. I think that's really important. And I guess one thing I talk about quite a lot with my clients, Michael, it's there is no lack of information today. All the information that you need to get better in golf and your fitness and health, it's there. Typically, it's about having the implementation of that information, and then it's having the commitment to that. So, a lot of people have been asking to me, why don't I just do this myself? I'm a fitness coach, I'm a physio, help people move better and play better. People ask, why don't I just do that myself? And it's a fair question, though it lacks a lot of those things. So the commitment, the implementation, and what I've heard quite a lot, probably in the last 6 months, is people will come into my service after trying the AI or the Chat GPT program saying it was okay, but it didn't work. So the confusion almost increases. So
Mm.
yeah, it's a really interesting space, man. But I imagine you probably hear it a lot in your world as well.
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, it can definitely be helpful, but at the same time, for I guess for my business, but yeah, for the side of things like trying to decipher it, and like you said, you just get more information, and then each one's a little different. Like I play with the three of I'll have ChatGPT, I'll have Claude, I'll have Gemini, and I'll give them the same task, and I'll give them this, ask them different or the same questions, and I love the different responses. ChatGPT makes you feel like you're the smartest person ever, and you're just having everything. Gemini tends to be a little harsher in my experience at least, and then Claude is kind of a little bit of a mix. So it's funny how there is so much information, but like you said, it's implementation. So what do you feel like ChatGPT or the AI might be missing with golf fitness, considering the fact that they've actually never worked out before?
Yeah, it's a good one. And I guess probably what you'll see in good trainers, typically it's keeping the client accountable. Let's say, for example, if you miss a workout, is ChatGPT going to set you a reminder? Maybe you can set it up that way. If I guess you're doubting the program, if the results aren't going the way that you hoped, what's the next step? You go back into ChatGPT, say, hey, this isn't working. Maybe you get injured at some point. Then
Mm,
you go back in. So I guess though with those things, you're going to need to go back to it and keep obviously giving more information. And not saying it's impossible. Obviously, I'm very biased. I've got my own business. I think I can help people, though it makes that process pretty confusing.
mm,
And I guess you need to give it really hard guardrails. Like you say, there's a lot of these
mm,
products, and they basically, for the most part, sift through information online. And we both know how much bad information there is out there. So if the data sources it's relying on aren't actually accurate to start with, it's sending you down a completely wrong path. And even of recent, again, I really appreciate clients that are searching information and trying to get better, but they'll say, hey, what do you think about this? And it's just so far from what I'd recommend. I ask
mm,
like, where have you gone for this information? And it's typically some AI model. So
mm.
again, is it useful? 100%, but you need to give it really strong guardrails.
Yeah, one thing I always appreciate with your Instagram is you always share studies and you have some good data in there as well. And I think you had mentioned you had some data. Anything specific you wanted to cover? I think with Whoop, I had some questions from some of the posts you've had as well, just kind of backing up the different data with speed training and mobility stuff like that. But anything you wanted to share before we get into that?
Yeah, we can dig into stats, and I love stats. Like I'm definitely a self-proclaimed nerd, and I've always been like a big skeptic, and sometimes that will hold you back from trying new things. But I feel like it's a healthy sense of skepticism. So for myself, I like to give recommendations based on research because it's been studied, it's been tested in a way.
Hmm.
So um, and that's where a lot of people reach out to myself as well, which I'm really grateful for. Not to say that it's for everyone. I guess one really interesting study from Whoop, and I'll take it with a grain of salt, but they had a group of golfers basically using Whoop. What they found was two really interesting things. So they saw up to an 80% reduction in lower back pain if they were following like the Whoop data. So if, say, for example, you have a really bad recovery day and you decide to push on with your training as normal, that's going to be a red flag, obviously. Whereas if you were following that data and making adjustments along the way, they saw a really big injury prevention. And again,
Hmm.
80% is a huge amount. So I'd be a bit skeptical of that in itself, though that's a really interesting piece of data. And then secondly to that, they saw that if you had a 10-point increase in your recovery score, you basically take half a shot off your round on average.
That's impressive. Yeah, I actually am experimenting without my Whoop for the first time. You can actually see the little thing there. I've worn it religiously for like a year and a half, but I got this new one and it was really letting me down. I feel like it was not accurate to the old one. Got to return. It was having some issues with it. But one thing I was having the problem was is if I woke up and I saw that my sleep wasn't good or my recovery wasn't good, I wouldn't. I feel like I just kind of set the tone for a bad day. And it's like it was just habit. I'd look at him, but oh, I'm gonna feel good today, or oh, I'm gonna feel bad today. So that's something I'm kind of working with. What are your kind of thoughts on what's too much data versus like being lazy?
Yeah, and I speak about this quite a bit. I typically recommend checking it at the end of the day for
Hmm.
almost the day prior because I'm the same, right? If I wake up and my Whoop says I'm 10% recovered, well, bloody hell, mentally I'm already thinking I'm going to have a hard day. I better start pouring the caffeine and
Right.
um, so I typically suggest to check it at the end of the day. And
Hmm.
I've used it for a long period as well. Don't currently have it myself, but sometimes I'll notice in the morning, I feel amazing today. I must have slept unreal. And I'll check my Whoop and I'm at a 30% recovery. And I'm trying to draw the link. So sometimes I've recovered 90% and I
Hmm.
feel terrible. I feel tired and
Yeah.
sluggish. So
Yep.
I was struggling to find the connections. So what I probably recommend to people is firstly check your data at the end of the day, so you're not getting
Hmm.
that bias.
Hmm.
Then secondly, probably checking the scores weekly even, just so you're getting that context because you're going to fluctuate day to day.
Hmm.
And then probably lastly is trying to draw patterns with that information. So like we talked about earlier, that 80% reduction in back pain, people are responding to the data and changing something. So if your recovery score is really low consistently, maybe I'll decrease my practice load. Maybe I won't go as hard at the gym.
Right.
So for myself, some really interesting stuff that I found was if I drank water before bed, my recovery score would go up. So I'll drink like a glass of water. If I did meditation before bed, my recovery score would go up and my heart rate would drop. So
Hmm.
I think testing and trialing things with the data and see how that responds is really important too.
I love it. I know you've worked with so many golfers over the last, how long you been at this now?
10 years as a physical therapist with golf, 7.
Fantastic. So I know you've worked with, you have a huge sample size and you've probably seen a lot. What, before we kind of get into some of the staples of fitness for golfers specifically, what are some of the big like red flags right out of the gates that you like really would like golfers to avoid these one or two or maybe three things? So it could be nutrition, could be recovery, could be fitness, could be mobility, anything that's just you see that's like this could lead to an injury or this could definitely hurt your golf game.
Yeah, I think number one, we may have mentioned on your last podcast, but warm up, like absolute no-brainer. It's going to help you move better, play better, decrease injuries. TPI put out a good study as well, saying you'll gain 5 yards in 5 minutes. So they proved that just by doing a quick 5-minute dynamic warm up. So who doesn't want an extra 5 yards and to
Hmm.
feel better? That's the first one. I think also managing like practice load. You yourself coming, well, you're a competitive golfer playing a lot of events. Typically, what I see is a really big ramp up in terms of hitting balls for competitive
Mm,
golfers, or if clients have a trip with their buddies coming up, they'll start to just really hammer their practice. So that's an issue. And then I think just training consistency and getting the load correct. So, what I see typically, people come on board my program, they want to go hell for leather and say, I want to train 5 or 7 days a week. I'll
mm.
say, hold on a second, you haven't trained in 10 years. Let's start with three, start slow, get the ball rolling. So, they're probably the big ones, man. But look, there is so many different things I could say golfers are doing wrong, but I'll start there.
Well, let's talk about warm up first because that I could not agree more with. I had a big section in the book about that. And honestly, I was guilty of not really having a dynamic warm up. I was always good about putting and chipping and range and warming up slowly, but that has been such a shift in the last 18 months and it has made such a big difference in my game. And I just wish every golfer would just spend 10, 15 minutes at home or in the parking lot, like just doing something, getting that body going. What are some easy things that golfers could do, whether they even have to spend less than $100 at home or something they can keep in their car? Just a couple of ideas, because I do my own little routine, but what would you say is just something that can help them?
For sure. And I wrote most of my warm-up plans around being at the course because um, typically excuses would come up. As a PT, any excuse to skip the exercises. So I've just tried to remove all of those barriers. So
That's
you
good.
can you can do a warm-up with a club, with a light exercise band. Some easy ones, Michael, would be doing some walking lunges with body rotation. So as you're
Mm,
lunging down, try and turn to the opposite side. That would be super easy. I like standing on one leg, swinging your golf club, gradually picking up speed, just as a way to obviously get coordination, get your balance in tune. I think that's a really good one. I like doing also just some squat holds. So just trying to
mm,
sit into that position. But essentially, what you want to try and do, so think if you're listening to this, what does a golf swing require from a physical standpoint? Like what rotation is happening in my shoulders, my back, my legs, and just try and gently challenge those in your warm up. So, with those few exercises, I think they're really good ones. And probably lastly, just the shoulder, having maybe your hand on the club, pushing your shoulder back. For
mm,
those that are not watching it, have your grip in one hand on your left hand, for example, have your right hand out maybe 30 centimeters from your shoulder and just try and turn that back behind you. So
mm.
you might be able to describe that better than I just did. I think I did a shocking job there.
No, no. It's just I just was trying to think of, like you said, that's actually even a good perspective. I'm pretty disciplined and obviously a very competitive golfer, so I take my routines very seriously now. But yeah, even if you don't have to do it at home, if you have it, great. But like you said, try to minimize the excuses and make it as easy as possible. So I like that you said that. Do you recommend them carrying any bands or anything like that in their car or trunk?
Yeah, that's a great question. 100%. Every client of mine should be carrying a band in their bag. I've got multiple. I feel like they're on every like doorknob in my house at this stage, but for sure. And if you take nothing from that bit of information for warm-ups, just grab a band, pin it under your lead foot, and just make 10 golf swings, and then do
Mm,
it on your opposite side. That's probably one of the easiest ways to get some mobility, some activation of those muscles, and it's much better than just going straight for the coffee or the hot dog before you play.
hmm Coffee and most golfers their warm ups just throwing a few aspirin back and calling it a day, right?
Yeah, that's it. And yeah, the painkillers, yeah, that's something we can get into as well. But actually, coffee, I'll probably just hit that hard. But coffee, and that's interesting about, I guess, the studies and the research they talk about. With caffeine, they found that accuracy improved and also energy and scoring improved with caffeine as well. So if you do enjoy your coffee before your round, keep doing it.
That's funny you said that. I remember there was an interview where Scotty Scheffler said he has caffeine during the week, but he doesn't when he's playing tournaments. And I'm like, that is sicko behavior right there. Like to me, that actually would lead to a headache, I would think, and like drowsiness, because if you're so used to it. But I'm a big caffeine guy. My My thing I will do sometimes is usually when I have caffeine late in the round, or if it's like super hot and I know I need a little kick, is I'll do that with the theanine, so that way it kind of like levels it off, so it's like a little bit of focus with the calm, so it's not like super jittery. Because I've definitely had too much caffeine, and then you're like already adding anxiety to some nerves sometimes, and that can go bad. So that's kind of one of the few supplements I always take, and then creatine, having that thing daily. I know you have some data on creatine. Why is that important for golfers and really for anybody?
Yeah, and that's interesting about the theanine as well. I see that as a supplement that's talked about quite a lot. I think it's quite prevalent in green tea, and I'm similar when it comes to caffeine. If I go over the top, get the jitters as well. Back to
Hmm.
Scotty just quickly. I'm pretty similar. Like on a work day, I'll have 2, 3 cups of coffee maybe. On when I'm playing golf, my heart rate elevates quite a bit. I get nervous. I feel like I want to play well, so I put pressure on myself. So I typically don't drink caffeine. I might have one at halfway. That's just something with that's probably the only thing me and Scotty share in common actually. But but going to creatine. So yeah, really beneficial supplement. I posted something recently about Rory actually, and Rory, you may have seen it too, Michael, where Rory says he takes 20 grams of creatine a day. He's actually speaking to Scotty in
Hmm.
one of the tournaments, the showcase tournaments they were doing, and the people in the comments have gone crazy over it in terms of it's going to kill your liver, your kidneys, and things like that. And everyone needs to take it in their own personal case as well. If you do have medical conditions, yes, you should speak to your doctor regarding any supplementation. Though there's a lot of research coming out about increased dosages. So I guess commonly 5 grams of creatine a day was the staple, and you'd have a loading phase of maybe 20 grams a day for 5 days. I know
Hmm.
you've been in the fitness industry for a long time, so have I, and that was always the standard. Whereas now we're seeing especially cognitive benefits, so brain
Hmm.
function, mental health, with these high dosages. So if someone's interested, Rhonda Fitzpatrick, she's a scientist that looks up into longevity and things like that. She's got some really interesting podcasts around it. And I know they do a lot of their work with people in military services as well. Let's say if you're doing a hike for multiple days and you're getting 2 hours of sleep, they're finding that sleep deprivation can I guess the negative effects can be minimized by
Hmm.
creatine as well. So there's that part. And then just quickly as well for golfers that love studies or love the facts as well. Over a 6 week study, this was done a little while ago. They saw a 13-yard improvement in driving distance when taken with a coffee extract. I think there was a calcium extract as well. So there's a quick one for you too.
Yeah, I feel like creatine, like I know that you said Rhonda, I've seen her stuff too. She has some really good stuff out there. And I actually used to do 5 because that's what everyone said. And then I was like, well, is that based on weight or like gender? Like I don't really feel like that was enough. So once I heard Rory say he has 20 grams, I was like, all right, we'll give it a try. So I started doing like 10 to 15. And then if I sleep, I used to have some real issues sleeping, but I think we fixed that. But so I would have a little bit more on those days, maybe like 15. But yeah, I definitely feel like having that 10 plus. I think every person that thinks of creatine too, it has such a bad rap of like, oh, bodybuilders do it, you're gonna get big. It's not like you're just gonna accidentally get huge, right? Like, and not only is it gonna help with the physical side, it helps so much with the mental side. And golf, we need both of those. So I just wish everyone could get on that, find the right doses for you, but just make it easy and make that like an everyday supplement. And I got my dad on it. He's 75. When you get older, you're gonna lose some of that muscle and maybe a little bit of this too. So it's such a
Yeah.
win-win. I feel like for anyone, whether you're training, whether you're golfing, mentally, physically, it feels like kind of a no-brainer supplement to me.
For sure. And it's been studied for years and years, and it's one of the safest supplements out there. And again, yeah, make sure you do your own tests on your own body to see if you can handle it or not. But like you said, dementia, it's seeing some improvements with that, but it's very early studies, but it's showing so many benefits. And most of the clients that I work with, Michael, are over 40, 50, 60. I do have younger clients as well, and they're based all around the world, States, Canada, Australia, wherever. And like the amount of questions coming about creatine, it's never been higher. And maybe because I talk about it quite a lot,
Hmm.
but it's cheap. It's typically very safe. It's going to help you improve your golf game, and Why not? And I might just touch quickly on actually how it works as well, because I feel like it's quite confused how it actually helps people. And basically with creatine, when you take it over a period of time, it does go into the muscle cells. And essentially when you're doing training, the creatine will basically break off from a three chemical essentially to a two. So it's where the muscle basically fatigue. Then you have your rest. Those two chemicals reform back into that three. So with taking creatine, it basically delays that onset of fatigue. So let's say I'm in the gym, I'm doing a squat. Maybe without creatine, I can do 5 reps. If I start taking it, I might be able to do 6 to 7. So you get that strength and power gain. Then we know the correlation between increased strength and increased driving distance. So that's where the benefit comes from. It's not the fact it just makes you bigger and so
Mhm.
you're going to be faster. There's that longer term process.
Yeah, talk to us a little bit more about that. I know I had one of your Instagram posts I was looking at earlier talking about stronger legs equal more speed. I think you had a couple different ones, and it was a good carousel of different studies kind of on that. Talk to us a little bit about just why we need to be training specifically in the weight room and that lower body, because guys are synonymous for skipping leg day, but hopefully the wicked smart golfers now understand that it generates a ton of power from there. So, anything you can share with us from that studies or how golfers should be training lower body.
Yeah, and the legs are huge in the swing, and mo most people now can look at the golfers that are hitting a long way. Look at Rory, super big quads, glutes. John Rahm, well, most longer hitters have really big legs, and I agree. I hated leg day forever. I've grown to like it over the years, but for me, one little hack is I put it on the start of the week on Monday, so at least
Mhm.
it's over and done. It's over and done with. But in terms of importance, there's super strong correlations with squat power and club head speed. One of the strongest indicators is a squat impulse, so basically a squat jump. So, and how a lot of these studies work, it goes from 0 to 1 in terms of the correlation to speed. So if it's a 1 correlation, it's almost perfect in terms of if I get a better squat jump, my speed is going to improve. So
Mhm.
with that exercise there, that squat jump, it's basically a 0.82 correlation, I think it is. So it's super important. And I forgot the first part of the question. Is there anything else I haven't
No, I
answered
mean,
there?
okay, so legs are obviously important. You talked about the jumps, but how should we actually be training for legs? Do you recommend, you said once you're doing it on Mondays. I like to do more like full body and do it a couple days a week. What do you think is best for golfers that maybe have a little bit of experience, but they're like, trying to figure out how to kind of build their schedule around lower versus upper versus core versus jumping. Like there's just so many things we're trying to focus on, but since ChatGPT can't make us a good plan, what would you recommend?
Yeah, 100%. Sorry, mate. And yeah, what I'd typically do for most clients is Um, most people I work with are busy in their own lives, their own careers. So normally it's a 3 day split. So I'll break it down typically into a lower day, upper day, core day. So in the lower day, obviously that's full legs. In the core day, it's a lot of the leg focus as well. So
Mhm.
that's typically how I'll split it up. In terms of sets, reps, that sort of thing. Towards the start of a program, let's say most of my clients, they start on a 12-week block. That first 4 weeks for leg training specifically will be a lot of stability, strength work, just to get a really good base. So think about walking lunges, single leg deadlifts, that sort of thing. As we
Mhm.
move into the next phase, which is power, if they've got a speed goal, that is, we'll start to look at single leg med ball slams. We'll look at squat jumps, 90-degree jumps, kettlebell swings. So we go from basically a strength training protocol to more plyometrics, so jumping, bounding, moving quick. And then the rep ranges will fall down. So instead of being a strength exercise of maybe 8 to 12 repetitions, we then pull it right down to 4 to 5. So they can just go max intent and trying to move really quick.
Mhm. So with do you think there's like any exercise that you feel like are the most beneficial? Is it lunges, deadlifts, squats? I know you mentioned the squat jump, but or should we just kind of have a good mix of all of them so we're getting the kind of front and back of the legs?
Definitely a mix. If I was to pick a favorite leg exercise, I love trap bar deadlifts just
Mm,
because we're in that golf posture. With a traditional deadlift, it requires a lot more range of motion. and keeping your posture is trickier. So I love trap bar deadlifts. In terms of like a plyometric, I love a contrast jump. So you'll basically squat down, let a weight fall on the ground, and then you're trying to push up. So
Hmm.
just speaking earlier about that study I referenced, that's basically a squat impulse. So we're training, I guess what a lot of these studies are suggesting. So there'll be some really big ones. But yeah, any client going through my program, we're trying to cover all of those bases and at the same time make it fun too, mate. Like if someone isn't enjoying what they're doing, if they say, "Hey, mate, I'm hating these squat jumps. Is there any other alternative?" I'll make it as fun as possible. So adding more of a golf flair in there. So a lot of
You're
my clients,
you're too nice. I'd be a terrible trainer. I'd be like, you step it up. That's what we got to do.
for
I
sure,
That's funny. But I will say the trap bar deadlifts are fantastic. We have a trap bar at our complex gym, and for some reason the other a lot of gyms didn't have it that I've been to, and I use that all the time. I feel like you can load up weight so much better. I do trap bar squats, trap bar deadlifts, do farmers carries with that as well, like or a carry, I guess modified carry with it. But I love those. I wish every gym had those, and I feel like it's so much. Again, you're much smarter in this, but to me, it feels safer on the lower back with deadlifts because I know that's an exercise a lot of golfers can get wrong. But it seems like the way the weight is, and like you said, kind of the posture, it feels like it translates to golf. It seems like a lot of the pros do it whenever you're seeing their stuff on Instagram, and yeah, it just feels a little bit more safe.
Oh, totally. And it's good for the ego as well because typically you can push it a little bit more. So it's fantastic. And I think I originally saw it a lot in the NBA years ago. They're typically really tall guys getting down to
Mm,
a normal deadlift bar, quite tricky. And then it's flowed through a lot of other sports as well. Like the position, it's quite functional, especially for golf. So it's got all of those good purposes there. And just going back to the power training as well, I think again try my goal is making sure people will commit to obviously their goals, make it fit seem frictionless. So when it comes to power exercises, I try and like to have some sort of goal focus in there, which clients typically love med ball throws and med ball
hmm.
slams. And there's another study as well about chest strength, and that's a really strong correlator with speed as well, like a
Mm.
0.94 correlation, I think. So doing, let's say, a single arm med ball throw, really strong indicator. If you get really strong there, you're likely to hit it further.
Yeah, so what is your thoughts then on like upper body? It sounds like chest is obviously a big one. Is it traditional bench press or is it more the speed, kind of like med balls? What are some good chest exercises for golfers?
Yeah, and I don't give traditional chest press to many clients. I try and like cover a lot of bases with the one exercise, for example. So if I'm doing chest work for a client, it will be typically a single arm flat press. So with that, they're going to have to stabilize their body because with that single arm they're doing the weight, your body wants to turn towards that. So it's
So
going
you're
to
saying
require more core.
single arm dumbbell press? Is that what you're
Correct.
got it?
Correct. So yeah, laying on a flat bench, one arm
Hmm.
doing the pressing action. So it requires a lot more core control. I love doing like a standing cable punch, those sort of things. I know you've had Troy on here as well, Scotty's trainer, and
Hmm.
I made a post about this saying um, typically people badmouth bench pressing, and we do want the chest to get really strong. And Troy and I are having a conversation, like training it more functionally. So I think if you can add some more core elements to it, more golf elements, so even
Hmm.
a single arm press with a band on one leg, adding as many of those elements as possible, I think will help, I guess, turn some stones.
And I know there's some interesting studies on grip strength and power. Do you have any info on that? I feel like that's something I can't remember if that was your Instagram or someone else that I've seen, but it seems like grip strength also is a pretty big indicator of generating speed.
Yeah, it's huge, and I think this was by Super Speed, I believe. So
Mm.
they had three categories. It was long drive, PGA Pro, I believe, and amateur golfers, if I'm not mistaken. And the difference was huge. So off the top of my head, and don't quote me on this though, this is in kilos as well. So for pounds, times it by 2.2 roughly. So long drive professionals, I think it was 74 kilos of grip strength. I believe for PGA pros, it was 64. For amateurs, it was 54. Again, I could be getting those numbers slightly skewed,
Yeah.
but essentially, the longer hitters, much stronger grip strength. And people will then think after hearing that, I better get some grips and start squeezing things around the
That's what I was
house.
just gonna say. Like people understand that study, but then they're like, well, what do I actually do to get more grip strength?
100%. And I typically recommend for people just go into either your gym that you go to, or if you're exercising at home, just try and really progress your training loads. So push towards heavier weights. Um, and let's say, for example, going back to your trap bar deadlift, your farmer's carries, your grip strength will have to improve to lift
Hmm.
heavier weights. Otherwise, it will fall out of your hands quite literally. And just if time is of the essence, if you want to do a 30-minute workout, doing hand grip strength exercises, I don't think it's the best bang for your buck. Hey, if you've got hours to train for a day, should you
Hmm.
do them? Yeah, you could add them in for sure. But for me, it's on the low hanging fruit there.
Yeah, no, that totally makes sense. Do you feel like with jumps, I know that's obviously going to be good. So we're working on speed, we're adding the strength. Where do like how often should we jump? How many reps should we do jumps? Is it broad jumps, box jumps? Like there's just so much information out there, like we've been talking about. Anything you'd recommend for when players are trying to add a little bit more of that to get some more explosion power?
Yeah, 100%. And I'd say in terms of frequency, a couple of times a week, I think is ideal. So with most of my clients, they'll do that. Let's say if they have that similar structure I mentioned before, a leg day, a core day, both having like a plyometric focus in there. In terms of sets and reps, I'd be doing for most 2 to 3 sets, rep range 4 to 6. And
Mm,
again, you want to be explosive with that. In terms of selection, I think trying to cover a lot of those different jumps is good. So let's say squat jump, that's challenging more of your vertical impulse. If you're doing a broad jump, that's also looking at how you can obviously push out, so in an anterior way. So that's
hmm.
going to train a lot of the forces in the golf swing. And some other variations that I use as well are called skater jumps. Basically, where you're in a lunge position, you'll
Hmm.
jump to your side. Let's say from your left foot, you'll jump onto your right, and that's trying to absorb force laterally. So in a golf swing, as most people know, your body's trying to sway and slide. So that's a really good one to try and get yourself in better postures with more control.
Billy, I'm making you proud. I did some of those today to end the workout, and we were super setting those with a good one. It was kind of a contrast training day today, so I felt good about it. But yeah, I like those kind of skater lunges. Like you said, it feels like you learn how to transfer your weight a little bit better.
100%. And do you mind maybe sharing some of your routines? Because I think obviously you're competitive golf, you're playing well, you do a lot of research of your own as well. So do you mind maybe sharing what you do and maybe your recovery strategies as a competitive golfer?
Yeah, it's definitely been pretty ramped up this year. I feel like feeling good and knock on wood, avoiding injuries and just really trying to train. The hardest part is trying to get the speed training with the hits driver on days because I don't like to usually work out a lot on those days because it is pretty heavy because you start doing because it's a 16-week program. So at the beginning you do the light, medium, heavy, you do 4 4 4. So it's not like I think 2 sets. But by the time you get to weeks 10 and up, you're hitting 90 to 100 drivers hard. And so, like, those definitely kind of wear you down. So, on those ones, I'll usually just do incline cardio just to do my steps and just do like a little bit of lower intensity zone two type training. Then on the other days, I'll do two to actually, it's been more like 3 to 4 full body days. I've actually kind of split it up into upper days and lower days just because I'm trying to get a certain body and type by the time I'm 40, and I feel like I'm really leaning into it. Like I said, I'm 40's like that, like planting the flag. I know a lot of players and people go the wrong way, so I'm trying to roll into that decade in really good shape. And like I said, I've been enjoying the pump a lot and just like the mental benefits from it. And so I've been pretty much doing 2 speed days, 2 upper, 2 lower, and then 1 full recovery day, and always getting 10,000 plus steps a day, which is tricky in Arizona heat sometimes. But yeah, the at-home treadmill helps a lot. And then and then I always warm up before speed training, so I'll do a mix of the Rotex device. I'll do a little bit of Golf Forever, and then I just kind of have my own dynamic warm up. So that takes about 10, 15 minutes, and I do that before every round of golf. I'll do that before every speed training session, every workout, and then on that full recovery day. I'll definitely just try to get steps only. Nutrition is obviously just kind of part of it throughout. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Creatine every day, and then a couple different multivitamins, and yeah, that's kind of the. It's pretty extensive. I'll be honest with you. It's not something I know a lot of players are going to have that much time to do, and then practicing 5 to 7 days a week as well. So it's definitely a lot, but it all comes from planning. Like every Saturday, Sunday, I'm looking ahead to the next week, looking at, hey, I have a tournament coming up, or hey, we have a few weeks off. Let's really lean into the speed and strength. But when I get closer to tournaments, I actually start taking a lot more time off. So I might stick with that. It might not be even as many workout days, but I'll lower the volume a lot. So instead of 8 to 12 reps, it'll be more the 3 to 5 reps, and we're just kind of maintaining the strength. But when the off season hits in October, I'm definitely gonna kind of keep ramping it up because I've enjoyed the kind of that split lately.
Love it. And make sure for listeners to check the show notes for those sponsors as well for the discount codes. But
I mean, I don't know what to tell you. They work well. Like I said, I'm up like 116 miles an hour club head speed right now. So we're trending. I think I can get to 120 by the time I'm 40. So that would be awesome. It definitely makes golf a lot easier. But once you start to see, I think the results, like it feel like it's addictive. Like you just want to see like what's possible. And then if somebody notices like, wow, you're looking good or you're hitting bombs, like that's when it really kind of gets in. But yeah, I feel like for a while you're kind of working in the dark. You're not going to see the results, and it's hard to like stick with it. So that's obviously where coaching like yourself and having people in your camp can help. But it is very rewarding when you see it pay off.
100%. And I've seen the products you endorse are all great products for sure. And just quickly, what about heat therapy and cold therapy? Do you mess with saunas, ice baths,
I
that sort of
don't
stuff?
do any ice baths. I've done some Epsom salt baths. Used to do hot tubs a lot, but we don't have one anymore, unfortunately. So I do a good amount of. I do some like stretching at night. I'll do some mobility before the kind of like part of the warm up routines. But yeah, my girlfriend's like cold plunge obsessed. She loves that. I have not particularly done that. I've done cryo. I did like that. But yeah, probably could be a little bit better with recovery. It's just knock on wood, things have been pretty solid. But yeah, definitely a lot of foam rolling and stretching at night is kind of my go-to, but I don't do much with the hot and cold.
Okay, and that might be an interesting one to experiment. And obviously, you're doing plenty, right? And that's the other thing as well. It's what do I prioritize? And I love how you planned out your week. That's what I encourage most clients to do. And I work with a lot of competitive golfers, so they'll mention to me, "Hey, I've got a tournament coming up in a couple of weeks." So I'm already planning their calendar,
Mm-hmm.
adjusting their workouts based on that. Back to just, I guess, sauna quickly, a lot of research around how that increases growth hormone. There was one study, I think it was 2 to 3 times a week, that was increasing growth hormone momentarily by about 16 times, something crazy like that. Again, take that for a grain of salt. Essentially, it's going to improve your growth hormone, which is great for recovery, muscle
Mm-hmm.
strength, all that good stuff. And then cold therapy. One mistake I see people using with this is doing it right after a strength session, and
Mm-hmm.
it can actually blunt some of the benefits of that. Like and you mentioned pump earlier, that's probably a really great point to touch on. With a pump, muscles basically, sorry, blood is circulating around the body to feed your muscles nutrients. So your body's trying to recover itself. So a sauna is going to help exaggerate that pump, more blood going into the muscles.
Mm-hmm.
With cold therapy, it's actually going to constrict the blood vessels. So that nutrients that's trying to get to these muscles is actually going to affect your recovery. So with cold therapy for people, I'll typically say to clients, do it first thing in the morning or earlier on in the day.
Mm-hmm.
Or if you're not too worried about the strength benefits or the power benefits, do it after a workout or best after a round of golf.
Mm. Yeah, that I would make sense with the. I actually used to do sauna a lot, and I did enjoy that. We had like a portable one that we had on our patio, and that was actually really nice. So I might need to look back into that. Those the cold tubs. Yeah, I feel like there's just so many studies out there, but yeah, like it seems like timing is the biggest thing with that kind of therapy. And I know she also uses the like the compression leggings. Do you like those as well?
I haven't messed around with those too much, the compression leggings, but in terms of what they propose, why not? And
Hmm.
look, if it's a 1-2% change, go for it. I haven't seen a lot of research emerging from them. But from what I know, they're trying to like push lactic acid and blood
Hmm.
around the body, so that can't be a bad thing in my opinion. With the cold therapy, I hated it for the longest time, and it got to the point I was seeing so much benefit from it. I said to myself, I've just got to stick it out. So my routine now, and this might help someone out there listening, 30 seconds in the morning after your hot shower, just blast yourself. It's like
Mm.
having three coffees. And also there was a study in the Netherlands. I feel like I'm getting a bit boring saying there was a study, but anyhow, there was a study in the
You're
Netherlands.
wicked smart. You're on the right podcast.
True. This is where I can nerd out in a safe space. But in this study, basically they had this huge cohort of people. They did cold showers every morning for either 30, 60, 90 seconds. What they found was sickness would decrease by 30% in this
Mm.
whole cohort because essentially when you're having a cold shower, it's stressing the body. Like your cortisone goes up, blood pressure typically will go up for that little moment. So you're teaching your body to put up with stress so that it can then self-regulate. So
Hmm.
very, very powerful in my opinion.
Yeah, that's true. I guess when I hear cold therapy, I just always think of cold plunges, but I used to do a lot of cold showers and I need to do that again now that you say that. Because yeah, it's a lot more doable than having to find a place that has a recovery thing or I mean, those cold tubs are crazy. Some of them are like thousands of dollars, I'm like, "Oh my God." Like it's aggressive what the recovery space has been like. But when I was looking at Justin Rose, I don't know if you saw like he had a really good post, kind of breaking down his morning through his afternoon. I mean, like it was a full day, but he was talking about recovery a lot in there, and I feel like that's becoming more of a common thing, especially for I think he's like 45, so it seems like a thing where if you are on the 40 plus side of things, really should be looking more into the recovery.
Definitely. And I guess if you looked at what 40-year-old golfers looked like 20, 30 years ago to now, they're so different in terms of their physique, how they look in themselves as well. So I guess we're looking at golfers now, Justin Rose, we're looking at Adam Scott. He's played 100 majors in a row.
Isn't that crazy? Like that stat blows my mind still.
100%. Like just thinking about that, it's 20 plus years, and I know Adam Scott's old short game coach personally. I think this is really interesting. He would say that Scotty would go to the gym for 2 hours before he played every round. So he'd be doing some sort of mobility work. Apparently, he's quite hypermobile, meaning he's very flexible. So
Hmm.
he wanted to go to the gym so he felt more stable in his swing. But apparently he was just notorious. Before he played, he was in the gym for 2 hours. After he played, he'd do a warm up for a cool down for an hour. So just so professional with his routines. And he's actually a really big, strong guy. You don't see it. He wears typically baggy clothing, but he's an athlete for sure.
That's interesting. He would work out to basically lose some of that mobility because he was so hypermobile.
Yeah, yeah, and it's very common with a lot of kids as they're growing. They're shooting up in terms of their height, and they're almost
Mm.
like little baby giraffes, and they're really
Good.
unstable.
That's a
Yeah,
good. Yeah, I
so I
like
guess
that.
so I guess with Scotty, he had that feeling of that he wanted to try and tighten up, and let's say some golfers might experience it when you feel like you're overswinging, you're losing a bit of
Hmm.
that control of the club face. So he wanted to feel like his body was engaged to make sure he was consistent with his stroke.
Unfortunately, most golfers don't have that problem.
I never have, I never will.
I feel like we've done a good job with nutrition or with supplements, and we talked about strength and some power, speed training. I like to think of it more like the turbo once we've kind of built that engine up. I know you've worked with a lot of players, a lot of different, you said 40 plus year olds. Let's talk a little bit about speed before I let you go. What is like one of the biggest mistakes you think with speed training that a lot of golfers are making?
I think it's doing it too quick earlier on in the piece. And I feel like we may have talked about this in your last episode, but typically you want some sort of preparation phase. So with most of my clients, again, 12-week program, that first 4 weeks, we're looking at injury prevention, getting pain out of the road, making sure your mobility is really good. And I'd highly suggest you're going to pick up speed just by clearing those things up. Your body's
Hmm.
naturally going to feel more comfortable. Then following that, I'd probably try and have it in a place where you can stay committed. Again, what I've found quite a lot is resistance to doing a lot of these different gadgets. They're quite time consuming. So I've created like a bit of a routine with my clients. They can do it within their workouts for 10 to 15 minutes. And I
Hmm.
find that that really helps. If they have a speed product, perfect. Even using your driver itself is going to help. I remember Cole Berkshire was talking about it a while ago, obviously world long drive champ. And he said if people just swing their driver more, they'll get quicker. So
I
just
agree.
doing, yeah. And so just by doing more reps in itself will help you. So they're the big things to consider. And another interesting thing from this year, a study that came out was tour professionals. It's trying to microdose your speed training as well. So let's say yourself, you've gained 5 or 6 miles, I believe you said. Throughout the season, you don't need to go into a full protocol again. But every 4 to 6 weeks, it's probably worth chucking a couple of workouts in or a couple of little speed sessions just
Mm.
to maintain that. Otherwise, you will see that natural decline.
That is huge. I made that mistake so many it's before this year, pretty much every year. I'd train in the off season and then I'd stop. And then it's like pretty much be like working out and then stopping. It's like you're gotta have some maintenance. So yeah, even if I have a busy like 2 or 3 day tournament or some travel, I'll still do like one 20-minute session, just like every, week or 10 days. But if I don't have anything for a couple weeks, like right now, I'll still do my normal speed protocol. But I wish more golfers would do that. Just like don't lose the gains that you worked so hard to get.
Yeah, and you know how hard it is to gain speed, like to get past that barrier you're forcing yourself and to that to wither away slowly, that sucks. So yeah, adding just that 1 or 2 sessions in every 4 to 6 weeks is super useful. And I hope you don't mind if I quickly mention another interesting fact as well. I know we're getting on here, but something interesting about nutrition as well. There was one group that did some research and they basically recommended 40 grams of carbs per hour throughout a round. So that was what they found was a really good dosage to make sure your blood sugar wasn't declining. And for
Hmm.
reference, if you have a banana, it's roughly 20 grams. So they're almost suggesting 2 bananas an hour. It seems like a lot, but if you're hearing that, I'd probably just suggest adding more food into your bag, whether that's a sandwich, banana, something, because too many golfers are on the course way too hungry.
I couldn't agree more, man. I always joke I'm there to eat with a side of golf because I have so many snacks. I mean, people are like, "How are you doing this?" I'm like, "I need fuel." Like then I see these guys come out with like one water bottle and like a granola bar. I'm like, "What are you doing?" Like, let's stop making golf hard. I like yeah, protein shake. I'll have just I don't think I'm having that many carbs, so I got to step it up a little bit.
Might have to. Good excuse, mate. Might need to take a little we call them eskies. Have like a little like cooler bag with
Yeah. Oh, I always
more
have the
food.
cooler with me. I mean,
Yeah.
at every tournament, absolutely. I have one that attaches to a push cart, so if I have to do a USGA qualifying and got to walk, I'm ready to go.
You're locked in, man. You're killing it.
I try, just obsessed with the game. All right, man. I got a couple last minute questions for rapid fire. You got time?
100%. Yeah.
Perfect. Awesome, man. What do you think is one piece of equipment under $100 that every golfer should own for their fitness?
It's a really good one. I'm going to go with a power band, like a looped power band. I think so versatile for strength, for stretching, mobility. Yeah, I'm going to go with that.
How much speed do you think the average golfer over 50 can gain with a strength and speed training protocol?
10 to 15 miles.
Hmm. That should be motivating enough for everyone to just drop what they're doing and start. What do you think is something that you see other golf fitness professionals do online that just makes you cringe and think that is not helping other players?
One thing, and it's probably just staying within the lane, and I won't speak too long into this, is I see a lot of personal trainers, for example, that will give injury advice that sometimes it isn't correct. So I just get a bit concerned with going too far into like a realm they're not studied in. I appreciate everyone's trying to help, but
Hmm.
even myself, let's say if I'm speaking about nutrition advice, I'm always really certain to quote studies or give evidence because I'm not a nutritionist by trade. I'm a physio, so that would
Hmm.
that would be my main pet peeve.
What's your favorite mobility drill before the round?
I'm going with a 90-90.
Hmm. That seems like a very common one. I feel like every time like I see a 10 best mobility drills. That feels like it's always in there.
Yeah, it's great for hips and it's an awesome stretch. The other one would be an X factor stretch. So if someone's lying on their side, they'll bend the bottom knee up. Then from there, their top shoulder, they're reaching to almost the opposite side of the room. So it's going to stretch
Mm.
your lat, the glute. That's a great two for one. But yeah, they're my top two for sure.
Is strength training enough mobility for most golfers, or do they need their own program?
Pardon, can you ask that again?
Yeah, do you think strength training is built in enough mobility, or do golfers need their own mobility focused type of program as well?
I think if you really perfect it, you don't need to stretch. Train with good range of motion.
Hmm.
You could avoid stretching altogether, but I'd recommend adding it
Got it. If we are to stretch, when is the best time of day to do it?
around your activities, whether that's around golf or around any fitness training that you're doing.
Got it. Perfect. Awesome. Before the last question, what's the best place everyone can connect with you and learn more about working together?
Appreciate that, Michael. So, best place is probably Instagram, golf underscore physio underscore Oz. Got a website, same. If you type in golf physio Australia, you'll find me somewhere, I'm sure. So I really appreciate that.
Absolutely, man. And is it one-on-one coaching, group coaching? What do you do? I know everyone's a little bit different.
Yeah, pardon. So how I work, it's one to one. It's very highly customized. I don't believe in cookie cutter programs. So I guess the people that I work with typically and over the age of 40, 50, 60, also people are outside of those age ranges. I think my oldest client's 86 at this point,
Hmm.
but essentially trying to help people move better, decrease injuries, hit it further with obviously a very nerdy science approach. But yeah, if someone wants to reach out and ask more, feel free to send me a message and yeah, more than happy to help.
Perfect. I'll definitely link to everything. And for the last question, just wondering, what do you think, or how should golfers adapt their approach during a tournament week, whether it's club championship or maybe a little bit more of a formal tournament? What should they do maybe in that week leading up to it to make sure they're ready to go?
I would say try and keep it, and this might be contrary, but try and keep it as similar as possible to your normal best performance because I feel people put too much pressure on themselves. I've done it myself. So keep it as normal as possible. However you perform best, try and keep that consistent and don't go over the top. Typically,
Mhm.
people will practice more, they'll train more, they'll do more and more and more, and it gets to the end of the week, they're cooked, they're burnt out. So my advice, keep it the same.
That's actually very true. I've been guilty of that as well. So, like you said, sometimes we need to be reminded more than we need to be taught. So that was a perfect ending and awesome stuff, man. Love talking with you. Love what you're doing. Love that nerdy approach, and we always welcome tons of good stats and studies over here to help golfers play wicked smart. So, Billy, keep up the good work, and thanks again for being on the show, man.
Michael, thank you so much, sir. Really appreciate it.